Hello, I'm Hunter with TMCO. Today we're going to talk about operational costs of an orifice fitting versus the initial pricing. Operators tend to fixate on the initial price of an orifice fitting and ignore the life cycle cost associated with the orifice fitting over the life of the meter. The Sureshot orifice fitting has some unique design features that significantly reduce the operational cost associated with a meter run. We're going to talk about a few of those today. Number one is our fitting is a greaseless fitting. What that means is we do not rely on grease in order to seal the upper chamber from the lower chamber. What we use is an eccentric plug, which is a cam style gate that uses a Teflon seat to seal off the upper chamber from the lower chamber. What that means is you do not require to have monthly maintenance operation on this fitting like other popular orifice fitting brands. And that also means fewer trips to the location, and it's one less thing that your technician has to worry about while he's at the location. Also, another problem with grease is it can harden if it's not functioning or if it's not operated on a regular basis. And when that grease gets hard, you actually have to completely disassemble and rebuild the dual chamber fitting on other popular brands in order to remove and replace that grease. Also, putting in grease takes time, and the more time that your technician is at the location, that's more labor costs, and more time equals more money to your company. Another point that we want to address is actually rebuilding the fitting. With the Sureshot, the most common item that needs to be replaced during a rebuild is this Teflon seat. And as we mentioned earlier, these Teflon seats can last years without having to be replaced. And the process for doing that is actually removing the eccentric plug. And a unique feature that we have with the Sureshot fitting is we have a end cap design which allows for a much faster process of rebuilding this fitting. Another benefit to these is these end caps will fit with a 2-inch through 8-inch orifice meter. So what that means to you is it's less inventory that your technicians have to manage. Also, oftentimes these rebuilds can be done by one single technician, so you have less people at the site. Another feature that we have is we utilize an O-ring instead of a paper gasket between the upper and lower chamber. So if you're without the paper gasket, you're not having to worry about having to replace it. You're not having to worry about scraping it off the surface. And oftentimes, you can reuse the initial O-ring when putting the fitting back together. The next thing that we want to talk about is safety. A unique feature, because we're using the eccentric plug, we do not utilize a slide valve with springs to seal off the upper and lower chamber. So there is absolutely no potential for the plate carrier to accidentally drop down into the fitting with compressing those springs and allowing an escape of high pressure gas, which could potentially eject or partially eject the plate carrier from the fitting itself, which can be very dangerous and detrimental. The second safety feature is we have a safety lock on the eccentric plug. So you know when this lock is engaged, there's no potential for an accidental opening while you're working on the fitting. And secondly, it requires a two-handed operation so that you know that there's also no accidental opening of the eccentric plug. Let's talk about differential pressure and flow rates when doing a plate inspection. One thing that's also unique to Sureshot orifice fittings is you can you can move the plate carrier from the lower chamber to the upper chamber at all the way up to 1,000 inches of water column differential pressure. Other popular brands of orifice fittings require you to reduce this differential pressure to 200 inches of water column or lower before you can actually operate the fitting and remove the plate carrier from the bottom chamber to the upper chamber. Doing this can cause significant issues upstream of the meter run that your operations team and your gas control have to deal with. Another problem with that also is it takes more time, and you also have less gas revenue through that meter station while you're doing this plate change. Finally, let's talk about seal rings. One thing that's unique to the Sureshot orifice fitting is we have the same design of our seal ring from our 2-inch through our 16-inch orifice fittings. We do not require any expensive bonded orifice plates for larger diameter like the 10-inch, the 12-inch, and the 16-inch, like other popular brands of orifice fittings do. Also, the design of our seal rings has a stainless steel ring inside which prevents any issues with swelling. So when you're doing a plate inspection and you introduce this back into atmosphere, other popular fitting seal rings will often swell so bad that they cannot be reused at that point. What that means to you is less inventory that your technicians have to carry around. The bottom line is, if you buy a cheaper fitting, it's going to end up costing your company more money over the life of the meter. Also, we want to remind you that TMCO Sureshot orifice fittings are an American-made product. You have a choice. Choose American-made.